With so much attention turning to the 1st District, I took time to sit down with both of the major party candidates, Crawford and Causey, in separate interviews earlier. First up, Republican Rick Crawford. All right, Rick Crawford, you're poised to be the first Republican to win this seat since Reconstruction. What type of message do you think that's going to send to the Arkansas and the national political establishment?
Well, hopefully I think they'll view that as just what it is, that people in the 1st District are assuming a more pragmatic position in how they vote, how they send people to Washington. I think we've seen an increase in the number of folks who identify themselves as independents. And I think that's the real story here, is that it's going to force a high degree of accountability, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, now the flip side is that Democrats could hold on to this seat. So do you think that will also signal something to the political establishment?
I think that's a possibility, but we haven't really thought about that. I mean, we've been pretty focused on this for a year and a half. We feel confident and comfortable with where we're positioned, and feel like we're pretty attuned to what people are thinking right now in terms of how they want to be represented.
Well, your TV commercial talks about what you won't do. You won't vote for tax hikes. You won't vote for big government spending. You won't cut Social Security. But you do have to address something if you're elected to get the budget under control. You're going to have to cut something significant. What do you favor cutting to get the national deficit and this debt under control?
Well, I think the first thing we have to cut is Obamacare. That's the most impending disaster we see. In fact, we see that affecting citizens in the 1st District and across the country right now. And unless and until we get that under wraps, defund that, what I call starving the beast, so it can do no further harm, we're going to have problems in the future. So that's the most pressing need, I think, that we see going forward.
Yeah, give me a second or even a third priority.
I think that we just have to look at every department where there are redundancies. That is to say, for example, if there are 16 agencies within the federal government that are responsible for food safety, my question is why? Do we need 16 agencies for food safety where they're all performing the same function? We need to consolidate and decide who does the best job of food safety and start making some pretty drastic cuts. That's just one example. I think we need to look into every department where there may be levels of redundancy that we can cut out of the budget immediately. And in Washington, they like to talk about cuts, and what they really mean is no baseline increase in spending. But what I'm talking about is not just a non-increase in baseline spending, but actual cuts. And so I think that's where we start, is just identifying those areas of redundancy.
Well, you've been hammered pretty hard, Rick, on what Democrats say is your support for privatizing Social Security. You've called it a scare tactic, but you do support allowing younger workers to use their payroll taxes for private account investments. Tell me what your position is on either privatizing Social Security or allowing for this younger worker option.
Okay, well, Social Security, I have no intentions of privatizing Social Security, and have been very clear about that. Again, what we see is an insolvency in a system that was designed to help supplement retirement income for working people. It's not doing that, and we need to address that. But the most pressing issue, as I said before, is how do we make Social Security solvent? Well, we can start by not implementing programs that we can't afford, such as Obamacare. And at the same time, when we see this impending threat on seniors, part of Obamacare is a $500 billion cut in Medicare, the primary constituents of Social Security. So that's my biggest concern, is that we make sure that we actually are able to fund Social Security, and we start by making those cuts that you mentioned before, Obamacare being one of those, going through and identifying those levels of redundancy that exist in the federal government, and moving forward to help secure Social Security.
But do you see the argument, though, this is being made, that it's taking money out of the system through these private accounts, that does risk undermining current payments into Social Security?
Well, that's not the argument that I've made, and the truth of the matter is I could make the argument in reverse. In fact, there's a movement afoot by the federal government to turn 401ks and IRAs over to government control. And I can tell you right now, the government does not have a very good track record of managing retirement funds. And so, we could talk back and forth about that all day, but suffice it to say, I have no intention or desire to cut Social Security.
You've also been hammered by Democrats, by your opponent Chad Causey, on the issue of the fair tax. Basically, this would eliminate personal income taxes and the IRS while implementing a national sales tax. You've said it's an idea worthy of discussion. Would you aggressively push for this fair tax change if you're elected?
I don't know that I would say that's an idea worthy of discussion. I don't know where that was attributed to. But what I would say this is I have never advocated for a flat tax, fair tax, or anything like that. In fact, I've been endorsed by the U.S. Chamber. I signed the taxpayer pledge with the Americans for Tax Reform. So I'm the only candidate in this race that has a commitment to seeing taxes stay low or lower taxes. And I'm not about to raise taxes. And really, it's a shame that this campaign has degenerated into lies about me instead of new ideas about what the other side can do to make life better for people in the 1st District of Arkansas. I would hope they'd have a little more self-respect than that.